Okay, so in the very beginning, I'm a cabinet maker by trade. So I went to college because I loved woodworking and I loved old homes, and I studied the restoration of historic buildings. And that led me down a path to taking a joinery apprenticeship in Scotland, which was an amazing experience. Then I moved back to Canada, and I was working in some pretty big shops. They're cabinet making shops, manufacturing facilities, and they started to send me installing around, first around town, installing everything, kitchens and commercial millwork, and then eventually on the road. And it started with Toronto, and then it started all across Canada, and eventually Bahamas was the first far place away that I went to. Bahamas and then Bermuda. And I got some amazing experience just traveling, mostly by myself. They just like threw me out the door and said, good luck. And then I was in Bermuda doing a residential project, and I really wanted to go home and play a golf tournament. And my boss said, like, absolutely not. You're not leaving. This job has to finish. There's no way. And so I quit. I told him I don't want to be like trapped like that. I want to make my own decisions and do what I want to do. So I bought my own ticket. I flew home. I won the golf tournament, and I flew back Monday morning to the job site as a subcontractor. So none of that was planned. I was like, I think maybe Sunday night I decided, I could go back and just, work as a subcontractor, but that's how I became an entrepreneur. So like zero planning. It was totally off the cuff and I guess a bit hard-headed, right? But it worked out over many, many, many years. I would say it's worked out well. I did no planning, and I just started to call around to people I know, and it turned out they all needed a lot of help. Like everybody needed a contract millwork installer that would come and do their stuff. So I continued to work for all the same people that I knew for years, and they sent me back and forth to the Bahamas and Bermuda and all across Canada. And then eventually I saw an ad with Kerzner to come and work at Ocean Club. And that's when I would say I ended up permanently in the Bahamas. That was in 2006. I came and started to work with Kerzner, building the Ocean Club Marina and residences and marina, and I've been here ever since, never left. So I've worked, I think I quit when I was 19 years old, somewhere in there, maybe 20. That's when I quit and went out on my own, and I did about a 1.5-year stint with SMG, where I was technically an employee, and I did that little stint building Ocean Club Marina. That was 2 years and I was an employee, but other than that, I've worked for myself the whole time. So yeah, that's kind of the story of how I ended up here. And I like it. I like the sun, I like the weather, I like everything about it. Despite the challenges, we have some awesome projects, like really good work in the Bahamas in my industry. So it's a ton of fun working here. So yeah, that's how it started.
I have a question because I never, like, of course, I'm always in the office, and these guys get to see everything. Do you actually do all the designs?
We do a bit of design, and I've personally done a lot of design over the years. Because we started in small residential, I did a lot of design. When I used to have a big shop way in the back of Airport Industrial Park. We had 6,000 square feet and all the machines, and it was massive. And we were building like $2,500 pieces of furniture, and we'd be doing like 90 at a time. Our spreadsheet had about 90 jobs on it. So they were all very, very small, and a lot of that I designed. And it was working with interior designers locally or architects. And I do all the designs, I did all the drawings. We did a lot of renderings back then. And I also learned studied architecture in schools. Part of restoration of historic buildings, we studied the history of architecture. So yeah, I love that, and I have it in me, and so I do. But today I don't do a lot of design work. especially on the big projects. They all come with multiple architects and interior designers, and it's like, it's their vision that you're carrying out. You don't really get to go in and change things. Just like, yeah. So, but the cool thing about it is often the architects and even interior designers, they don't see all the details through to the end. They kind of create a vision or some really nice images or two-dimensional drawings, but they don't sort out all the little problems and things and how it's going to work. So we do a tremendous amount of that in, which I would call design, but it's like, it's sorting out visual problems and things. I'm looking at that desk right there, right? And if I was involved in this millwork project and this setup, I would make this cabinet the same depth as the desk, right? It's a little bit smaller. So like that's a perfect example. Architect will just draw the desk and the cabinet and sit it there, and then when we go and do our shop drawings, I'll decide that I want to make this custom and make it the same depth and maybe the same height or to the underside of here, something like that. So that is design, and we do a lot of that, but it's just because the details aren't there. Nobody's figured out that level of detail.
So you're like responsible for all the small details that actually
Yeah, that nobody ever sees and nobody ever pays attention to, and they.
I think people notice it because again, when you go, if you look at this desk, right?
Yeah.
You're like, okay, they put that together, but if you went someplace else and you're like, oh, this is nice. Like you could actually see the small like thoughts that went into
Yeah.
what you're looking at.
And interestingly, I think the human body is based on symmetry, right? So we can feel good architecture. You don't know it, and if you're not trained in architecture, you probably don't see it. But you probably heard of feng shui. Yeah. That's a similar kind of concept, but your body can feel when things are not quite right, or it maybe the opposite, or maybe the stronger feelings are when there is symmetry and things do feel right. That's when it feels good. So a good architect designs buildings that make you feel great and give you this experience that you're not really ready for. You don't know that you're about to enter into. So yeah, there's an awful lot to it. And we're always trying to like elevate that, make it just so if the architect has a vision of something spectacular, we're trying to follow that vision and just make it a little better, or find the things that they missed out on and just improve it a little bit. So that's where I'm involved in a lot of the design work. I still review shop drawings of just about everything we do, and I look at it and I see mark up little things like that we could improve.
A lot of time.
It is, but I really like that part. I do. And I think I'm pretty good at that part. Seeing, you're taking two-dimensional drawings with a ridiculous amount of detail on them, and you have to visualize and see what the finished product's gonna look like and how I can just make it a little bit better. So I wish I had more time to do that because I like it, and I think it's a skill that takes like decades to learn, right? So having other people learn it and be able to do it is really hard.
Never thought of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I have a question. When you say like just elevating the project and elevating the pieces that you do, for example, with you and your team is working on Mandara Spa, and you're working with contractors day to day in and out of the building, and the pieces have already been made, like the drawings have already been done by the main contractor
Yeah.
and what's not. How do you go with saying, like, you see a piece that needs to be elevated or improved on? What's the process of being able to say, go to that contractor and say this needs to be done, compared to say just doing it because you know it's better? Because that could probably be a problem sometimes.
It can be a problem. Every once in a while I get myself in trouble. Most of the time I just do it because I know that it's better and I have enough experience and confidence to know that what I'm doing is correct, or that, or if I've worked with the architect for a little bit, we've got to know each other over a few months, I'll know what their answer would be, or anticipate it. If I think it's a big deal, or maybe more importantly, if I can't reverse the problem, or if I can't reverse what I've done, then I would probably get actual approval. But if we can just take it back or change it or do it something because I didn't realize it, then then I'll go ahead and do it because I think it's improved. But here's a great example. We built all those stanchions for Royal Caribbean, right? The posts with the rope, and they have a metal hook on the end of the rope, and the metal hooks rusted away like crazy and they broke. So we're doing a new version out of solid brass. So we're casting our own solid brass hook that's going to last 100 years. And we came up, the supplier that we're using came up with a great idea of using the crown and anchor logo of Royal Caribbean on the hook. And so it's like the crown hooks into the little eye, and it's really cool. And he did a casting of the whole thing. He did it out of bronze. So he poured this molten bronze into we did a video of the whole thing. It looks amazing what this guy did. And he polished it and made them all up, and I sent it to Royal Caribbean, and they said, we don't like it. I was like, how could you not like it? This is incredible. It's so cool. And they didn't like it at all because they don't want the Royal Caribbean branding on that property. It's the Royal Beach Club at Paradise Island, and they have 3 different brands that go there, as well as the general public. So if you come in on a celebrity cruise line, you don't want to see Royal Caribbean branding everywhere. And so they've intentionally kept the Royal Caribbean Crown and Anchor brand like very minimal. So I didn't go and order 500 of them. That would have been a real screw up. But we still spent probably 3 weeks from design and casting this thing, and I had them made in Toronto and flew them down here, and so there's definitely expense involved, and they completely didn't like it. So every once in a while, you can screw up if you don't really understand the vision and what they're trying to do. And so, yeah, that one I kind of screwed up. Now we're making a plain, boring hook that couldn't be any more basic. It totally sucks.
That's really interesting because they have a massive structure.
Exactly, that's what I said. You have this 40-foot high giant blue crown and anchor there, but you don't want my fancy little hooks. And we even brought the price point down to the same as the boring hook, and they said no.
Trust me, we worked, myself and my mentor worked with them with the Artist Discovery Program, and they're very particular.
They are very particular. It's really hard. So that example, when you're working with a client like that, I can't just go and make choices and change things, and because they have so many levels of people that review things, and every time I make a recommendation, they come back and say, no, we're not doing it like that because, again, yesterday, somebody on site, operations managers, recommending we do this canvas roof in color. Right now it's just beige, it's boring. And we should do it in color, and we should add some color to this hair braiding station. And so I brought that up in yesterday's meeting, and she said, we actually did it beige intentionally because of the epic views. So they have specific epic views throughout the property where you see the ocean and the beach. And because that unit is bordering an epic view, they don't want it to be loud and flashy and colorful. They want it to kind of disappear because you're looking at this. So it's things like that are very hard to predict. And so yeah, Royal Caribbean's a bit of a different customer.
But everything on that property is colored.
It is. That's what I said. Everything except for this stupid hair braiding station is completely bright and colorful, and this thing's brown. But yeah, so I'm trying to go. We actually did a rendering of what the colored new thing would look like, and they said no, that impedes on our epic view, and so it's tough. It seems like you can never get it right with them. There's always something you didn't know about.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Was there a time where you really had to quell your ego? Or was it, because you started when you were 19,
Yeah.
right? Was there some progression to you, saying oh, I'm Johnathan, I know everything, to now where you're okay, I'm going to listen to you and take what you're saying into consideration and everything? What's the journey of your ego, I should say?
Well, I probably had a very high ego early on, to just leave and go do my own thing. And I thought it was even when I started here and had this shop and all these people doing those $2,500 tables, I definitely thought I was good at what I did. It took a very long time, I generally say 25 years, to really learn about business and learn that I actually knew nothing about business. And it didn't matter so much that I was good with my hands and I could build all this cool stuff. I didn't really have the business part straight to go with it. So we've gone from those little $2,500 tables to $1 million projects, and a lot of that is just because I learned business. So yes, I would say I've definitely been humbled a lot more, and once I started taking courses and getting mentors and hiring people and paying to go be in the right room and learn things about business, I realized there's so much more I didn't know. And that's shocking when you think you're really good at something and then you go and start to see all the stuff you don't know about. Yeah, that humbles you a lot. So I still have a massive amount of confidence in like my skills and ability in the trade and in the business and what we do, but I would say I also really understand there's so much you don't know, and that's really important. Like in business and in what you do every day, it's super important. There's a graph that I learned from Brandon Dawson. He basically draws a circle, and he draws a little pie of that circle and represents 5%, and that little strip is things that you know,
Yeah.
right? And it's tiny, tiny, tiny things, but like I know a lot about wood, right? So that would fit in that tiny little strip. And then there's things that you you don't know, like I could never do heart surgery. So I definitely know there's things that I don't know and understand and never intend to, and that's another like skinny little 5-10% strip. Everything else in that entire circle is all the stuff that you don't know that you don't know. And that's what happened when it came to business, and I started to learn all this stuff and discovered like why it was so hard for 25 years. I had no idea that it was really, really hard to build 90 tiny little pieces of furniture where we weren't charging enough money and we weren't covering our overhead and all those things. So all of that is stuff that I didn't even know existed. And now my theory is that graph, that pie never changes. Even as you get better and better, and I get better at business, and now we do $1 million projects, I still only know that tiny little 5%. The rest of that is still there, and it never changes. Like the more you learn, the more there is to learn. So I think that's very humbling, right? When you think about that, how much you actually have no clue that even is out there.
You got time for one more question.
And so I just want to backtrack a little bit to your work. And so as a employer turned budding entrepreneur, very young, 19, 20, and you just jumped off the boat and then you found shore. So my question is, how did you navigate that? Like, what was the journey like, and how did you find your footing, so to speak?
That's a good question. I think it was just work hard. That was like my theory, was just work really hard. It definitely wasn't from planning. It wasn't from, I tried to read some books on business. Funny enough, the E-Myth by Michael Gerber, I had a physical copy and I tried to read it, and I think I got like 3/4 of the way through, but every time I read a page, I'd fall asleep. So it was just impossible. And I'm sure I maybe got 5% of what was in that book back then. Now he's probably my favorite author, and I listen to every single thing he's ever written. And I think he's totally amazing. But so it wasn't from planning, it wasn't from like learning from other things, but I think maybe the way that I got through it, or that I considered myself successful then, was I just worked crazy hard. And that kind of stood out. I could work 80 hours a week, I could install 3 kitchens in a week, doing jobs for all these different suppliers, and they loved that because so I think I fumbled through or forced my way through a lot of the challenges by just doing more, just doing more volume. And not necessarily maybe the best approach. It was the hardest way of doing things, right? It wasn't because I learned the best way, or it wasn't because I was working smart. I was just working harder. And it was the same thing here with this shop and having 90 projects. If you were struggling and you didn't have enough money to pay the bills or pay all the employees and things, well, then we need 95 projects. And then let's do 100 projects. And that was not thinking smarter. So I think that's kind of how I got through it, was just a lot of effort. Not, I wouldn't recommend that. Not in today's world.
So really quickly, if I could, just to speak to that part, so what would you do differently back then that you know now?
Well, now it would be, number one would be find someone else that's done it already. Like, just find a mentor. That is the simplest, easiest thing to do. And I even worked for them. Like, I worked for these guys that were, 10, 20, 30 years older than me, that ran these big manufacturing shops and did all this stuff. I could have just gone to them and asked them what were the right things to do. I just never did that. It never occurred to me to ask somebody else. So that would definitely be number one, is like, ask somebody that's done it, get them as a mentor to help you out. And then, of course, today it's so easy to listen to books and to learn information online and YouTube and all these things that never existed. I watch a regular podcast called the Cabinet Makers Profit System, and it's a podcast just for cabinet makers on how to make money and be profitable. Well, that never existed before. Like, it's amazing. It is such a great program, specifically geared towards just me. And, so technology's changed all that, right?
All right. That's
That wasn't at all what I thought we'd talk about, but sure. We talk about something.
Like I said, I know whenever you open your mouth, everybody.
You know what? I think one more important thing I should say, because I don't really know whether all of you have big giant goals to go start your own business and do your own thing someday. But I think one of my biggest regrets in just jumping ship and doing my own thing, even though I worked for those companies for a little bit, I did the same with SMG. I worked there for nearly 2 years. I built the biggest project he had ever built before, and he begged me to stay. And I said no. That was it. I walked away, and we didn't talk for at least 10 years. And that was a huge mistake. I didn't really understand the founders or the boss, the owner, whatever, like what their real goal was and how I could have fit in. So I could have been a subcontractor, and we could have done a lot of work together, but I just upped and left. I'm like, I'm out of here. I do my own thing. That was a huge mistake. And if I just look at SMG, they build like high-end homes and they do the cabinetry in the homes, but they don't do the doors, they don't do floors, they don't do trim, they don't do stairs. All these things that we do today, I could have been supplying him with that for the last 15 years, but I didn't. I just walked out the door. And that was a huge mistake. So I think every time I quit or left an organization or something, I didn't really understand that I could still be a huge part, and I didn't understand the vision of the founder. I just kind of thought I got to do my own thing. And so I think that's huge. If you ever plan on going and doing your own thing, there's probably a very close association or a link with who you currently work with that could just get you there a lot easier. And so don't just up and quit and walk away. That's poor communication, right? So that's like a big regret in every time that I've left. Okay, that's it.
All right, if there isn't anything else, any other business before we wrap? All right, what's the standard?
Excellent.
What's the standard?
Excellent.
What's the standard?
Excellent.
What are we?
You all what you feel you do, therefore excellence is not an act but a habit.
All right, guys, let's read
Good job. Oh, sorry.